Hi, I'm Bethany or Beth, and you probably know me as Bemmy's Bookshelf on TikTok. I read 10 books in August, which is a bloody achievement for me. I'm very proud of myself because I usually only read 4 or less. So August was my month. As you can see, I've got my iPad. This is GoodNotes. I always do my wrap-ups, well, it goes from April to August, so I don't always do my wrap-ups. That was a big lie. But I've made this one really cute, so I'm going to talk to you about the books that I read in August. So these were all Kindle books, except for one, which was a physical copy. This is my Kindle. She's gorgeous, and I love her. So the first book I read in August was on my Kindle, and it was Was It Good For You by Catherine Freeman. I rated this a 4 stars. I love Catherine Freeman. You can see some of her books here. She's one of my absolute favourite rom-com authors. So Was It Good For You is about a 29-year-old woman who loves a spreadsheet. She hasn't dated in a while, and she has a dating spreadsheet. So she goes on a date with this guy. He's a doctor. He's cute. He's actually probably one of my new favourite book boyfriends, and she writes him in the spreadsheet. She gives him a 2.5 and accidentally sends it to him, so you can only imagine how that goes. But it was a really good book, 4 stars. Again on my Kindle, I read The Silent Bride by Shilali Boland. I got this as an Amazon First Reads in August, and I did enjoy this book, but the ending was so weird to me, like completely far-fetched. If you've read the book, you'll understand what I mean. But it was just the most bizarre, far-fetched ending I've ever read, which is why I couldn't give it more. Like, the whole book throughout I just thought was great. Like, the plot was really good. It's about a bride who turns up on her wedding day, walks down the altar, and doesn't recognise her husband. She doesn't recognise her husband, and she doesn't recognise her husband's parents. But she recognises everyone else. She knows everyone else. Everyone else recognises the husband and his parents, but she's literally losing her mind about it. So you're trying to figure out why she doesn't know who he is. 3 stars. Then I read The Earth Witch by Gina Kincaid and C.D. Gorey. I got this as an Book Sirens arc. I enjoyed the book as a whole. I did only give it 2 stars. It's my fault. I've posted a really full review of this one on Goodreads, so I will tag my Goodreads below so you can see it, because I go into more depth on there. But basically, in short, I started with book 4. This is book 4 in a series, and nothing happened. Like, I kid you not, nothing happened. And to be honest, my main problem with this book was that I'm gonna zoom in so you can see what I mean, but she constantly describes herself throughout the whole book as being chubby, overweight, that her thighs rub together, that she pants when she walks upstairs. Basically, that she doesn't fit in with all the other girls because she's overweight. I'm going to show you what the cover looks like. You're telling me that this girl is overweight. Because if she's overweight, what the hell am I? Morbidly obese? I think not. The one physical book I read was Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. On TikTok, I filmed a swapping screen time for reading video, and this is the book I read in it. I really, really liked this book. I gave it 4 stars, and I just thought it was so good. Like, it was adventurous, it was romantic. It's about a woman who owns, not a ranch, it's like a cowboy excursion thing. And her ex-boyfriend and his friends book to go there for their yearly weekend trip, basically, a week-long trip. She doesn't realise he's going to be there. He doesn't realise she owns the place. And then, yeah, it goes from there. But I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. And then we go on to my favourite book that I read this month, which is The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. Oh my god, when I tell you, this was my first Frida McFadden book that I read. When I tell you that after I read this book, I was going through Frida's backlist like no one's business. I loved it so much. The twists. When everyone says that Frida McFadden is their favourite thriller author, I know exactly what I mean, because it was Karen Slaughter for the longest time. And I'm sorry, Karen, but Frida has taken your place, most definitely. I read these books on my Kindle so quickly. It takes like 2.5 hours to read each book. I'll tell you what it's about, although you probably already know. So it's about a woman, she's struggling, she's just got out of 10 years in prison and she can't get a job. She ends up working as a housemaid for this family. The mum in the family is a little bit dodgy. The dad is really friendly, mum is dodgy, the little girl is a brat, and yeah, that's all I can really say because I don't want to spoil too much, but it's just, trust me, 5-star book. Then of course straight after that I had to read The Housemaid's Secret, which is the sequel to The Housemaid. I also gave that 5 stars. It was a little bit, I would say it was a 4.99999 stars. I liked it slightly less than The Housemaid. It kind of follows the same premise where she gets hired as a housemaid for this really rich man and his sick wife, who she never sees. She's constantly in her room. But I cannot tell you too much about this book without spoiling the ending of the previous one, so you're just gonna have to trust me. Then, still in my Freedom McFadden streak, I read The Inmate. This I gave a 4 stars. I still really enjoyed it, but the ending I wasn't really that shocked by. It's about a woman who works in a prison, and in that prison is her ex-boyfriend. It's a high security male prison, and she's working as the nurse there. He doesn't realise that she's going to be there until something happens to him and he has to go and see the nurse. I loved this book throughout. I loved the way it was written as usual. The books are so fast paced. I love the past and present tense. I found myself preferring the past tense more than the present tense, but then again I usually do. It was just the ending that I was not really a big fan of. I just thought it was really random. So that's why I gave it 4 stars. Then I read In the Likely Event by Rebecca Yarros. I gave this 4.5 stars. I really loved this book. I have no other vocabulary than really loved, but I really loved this book. It's the author of Fourth Wing, so if you didn't know who Rebecca Yarros was just by hearing her name, that's who she is, and she's a brilliant author. It's about an 18-year-old woman and a 19-year-old man who go on a plane together. Not together because they don't know each other, but they're sat next to each other, and after like 3 minutes of takeoff they crash, and it's an awful tragic crash. And basically the timeline goes back and forth between 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 9 years ago basically, and the present day, which is 10 years on from when they first met. He's now a military man, and she works as a politician's secretary or something, and then she goes to Afghanistan. So I'm explaining this so bad. She goes to Afghanistan where he is based, and he doesn't realise she's going to be there, but he ends up having to be her like protector. Man, I'm getting all of this terminology so wrong. Trust me when I say I love books, but if you ask me what they're about, I could not tell you. Anyway, I gave this 4.5 stars. I loved it so much. Everyone needs to read it. So throughout the month of August, I was listening to The Summer I Turned Pretty on Audible. I read all 3 books. I read the first one last year and the last 2 this year, and then I've also watched up to the end of the newest series. So I was in a bit of a Summer I Turned Pretty hangover, and I wanted to listen to the audiobook. So thank you to Audible for only costing me £1 to get this book. But I listened to it, I rated it 4 stars, just as I did when I read the book. Loved it, it was cozy, it was fun. I was listening to it to get me to sleep every night because it was just fun. And yeah, that's all I can say. The final book I read was part of my book club, which is Bemmy's Book Club over on TikTok and also on Fable. I'll put the links below. I love my book club. I think we've got just over 90 members now, and it's just such a nice community. We always talk about the books. I let you guys choose the books, so if you want to join my book club, feel free. This month we read It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. I am so late onto the bandwagon with this book. I had no interest ever in reading this. Like, sorry, I had the sudden urge to have a drink. I never had any interest in reading It Happened One Summer. I don't know why. It's just one of those books you see all over BookTok for so long, and you either see people who love it or you see people who hate it. I was worried that I would be in the hate it category, so I was never fussed about reading it. Until someone said, you must read it because I'm choosing it as a book club book. And I was like, okay. So I bought it on my Kindle and I rated it 4 stars. I really liked it. I really liked it. I think Brendan is the perfect book boyfriend. I thought Piper's character development was amazing. It's about Piper, who is a socialite. She's practically famous. She gets into some trouble, so her stepdad sends her to the town where she grew up until I think she was like 4 or 6 years old, which is a small fisherman's town, and there is a grumpy fisherman there who really loves to shit on her. It's Grumpy Sunshine. It's found family almost, because, well, she finds her family, so it is quite literally found family. But anyway, I'm really bad at explaining. You're gonna know this, you're gonna learn this. I'm awful at explaining books, so you have to just bear with me until I get a little bit more confident. But this was my August wrap up. I will be doing my I think I need to just literally wrap this up now, because I can talk for 30 seconds on a TikTok. Hell, I can talk for 10 minutes on a TikTok video. But talking to this bloody camera, I don't know. Talking to this bloody camera, I start to go Australian and I start to get a bit weird. So we're going to call it quits there, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.